The Galactic Council chamber was silent. The chamber never fell silent, not even during votes on war or peace. But tonight, the silence was heavy, and every eye was fixed on the figure being dragged inside. 2 towering guards held the prisoner by each arm. His uniform was in shreds, his skin scarred, his face pale, yet his eyes burned with defiance. He did not look like any of the Council's known species. His frame was too strong, too solid, too human. Whispers filled the chamber. Words that had not been spoken in centuries were whispered now. Human, Terran, Deathworlder. The Speaker of the Council, a scaled being with silver eyes, slammed a staff against the floor. Order, order in this chamber, but the whispers did not stop. Entire delegations leaned forward, studying the prisoner as if they had seen a ghost. For 1,000 years, the official record had been clear. Humanity was extinct. Their world had burned, their fleet scattered, their name erased. Yet here, standing before them in chains, was living proof that the story was a lie. The prisoner lifted his head. His voice was rough, broken from years of silence, but his words carried across the chamber like thunder. "You think you know what you've done?" The council erupted with shouts. Some demanded the guards silence him, others screamed for answers. The prisoner ignored them. He stood straighter, the chains rattling against his wrists. "You took one of us," he said, glaring at the assembly. "And now they are coming." The words struck harder than any weapon. For a moment, the councillors forgot how to breathe. The translation systems confirmed it. The meaning was clear. Someone was coming. The council's representatives turned on each other in panic. The insectoid Qatar delegation hissed that it was impossible. The winged Athari screamed that humanity was long dead. The reptilian generals demanded to know where this creature had been found. The answer came from the council's intelligence minister, her voice trembling. He was discovered on the slave world of Jernak, hidden, surviving alone. The chamber broke into chaos again. If one human had survived, could there be more? Were the legends of Earth's survival true? Had humanity been hiding, waiting, watching? The prisoner fell silent. He closed his eyes, breathing slowly, as if listening for something beyond the walls. Council guards moved to drag him away, but suddenly the lights in the chamber flickered. A low vibration rolled through the floor. Every display panel turned to static. Communications officers shouted warnings. Then came the readings. Sensors in orbit detected something at the edge of the system. An unknown fleet. Councillors froze. The data was undeniable. Dozens of ships had appeared without warning. They were huge, their hulls sharp and angular, their signatures unlike anything the galaxy had seen. The ships were moving with terrifying precision, each one larger than a council battleship. The prisoner opened his eyes. He smiled for the first time, but there was no joy in it. "Only certainty. They have come," he whispered. Panic ripped through the chamber. Alien faces twisted with fear. Delegations screamed to evacuate. Some called for immediate attack orders, others for surrender. The Speaker of the Council slammed the staff again, his voice breaking. "Silence! We must know who they are. We must make contact." But deep down, every leader already knew. The rumors, the old stories, the warnings, all of it pointed to the same truth. Humanity had returned. The guards tried to pull the prisoner away, but this time he resisted. He stood firm, even in chains, and his voice carried over the chamber one last time. "You thought we were dead. You thought you erased us. But you were wrong. Humanity never forgets. Humanity never forgives. And now they have come for all of us." The chamber lights failed completely. Red emergency glow filled the room. Sirens echoed through the capital. Above the council world, alien fleets began to scramble. Through the thick walls of the chamber, a faint rumble could be heard, the sound of orbital defense batteries preparing to fire. The council guards shouted orders, rushing to their stations. Delegates tried to flee, but the exits locked shut. In the darkness, only the human prisoner remained calm. His chains clinked as he lowered his hands and bowed his head, as though he had fulfilled his purpose. Outside, the first titanic shadow passed over the planet. It was a warship, larger than any seen in 1,000 years. Its hull bore markings no alien could read, but the prisoner knew them well. They were letters. Letters from a language the galaxy had forgotten. The council chamber fell into terrified silence once more. And then the alarms began to scream. The council world trembled as the alien defense grid activated. Giant cannons rotated into position. Fighter squadrons launched into the blackness of space, their engines blazing as they formed defensive screens around the planet. But when the unknown ships finally emerged from the void, every soldier and counselor knew the truth. These were no ordinary intruders. The fleet that appeared dwarfed everything the galaxy had ever built. Ships the length of continents glided in tight formation, their hulls shaped like daggers. They moved as one, silent and perfect, as if guided by a single mind. Council admirals shouted orders, demanding scans. The data came back distorted. The ships carried stealth fields far beyond council technology. Some signatures vanished and reappeared without warning. The alien officers realized with horror that this fleet could have been watching them for years without detection. And then the symbols were seen. Across the surface of the lead dreadnought, massive white markings lit up. Alien translators struggled with the shapes until one word was finally spoken aloud. Earth. The chamber fell silent again. The counselors, who had denied and mocked the human prisoner's warning, now sat frozen in fear. The prisoner, still chained at the center of the chamber, raised his head slowly. His voice was calm, almost proud. "You wanted proof. Now you see it." Above the planet, the largest warship began to broadcast. A single image filled every council screen. It was the flag of Earth, blue, white, and green, with the emblem of humanity burning bright at its center. A voice followed, deep and commanding. It spoke in every language at once, translated instantly across the stars. "You have taken one of ours. Now we return for all of them." Gasps filled the chamber. Some counselors demanded immediate negotiations. Others screamed for battle. A few begged to surrender before it was too late. But the admirals were already preparing their fleets. Hundreds of council warships rose from the surface, their formations spreading wide to cover the orbital path. The order was clear. Hold the line. The first clash came swiftly. A wave of council destroyers charged toward the human fleet, weapons blazing. Plasma bolts and energy lances lit the darkness. The sky itself seemed to crackle under the fury of the opening salvo. But the human fleet did not break. Instead, the shadow fleet moved with terrifying discipline. Not a single shot was wasted. Not a single ship moved out of formation. Their weapons struck like lightning, precise, merciless, devastating. Entire wings of destroyers vanished in seconds, burning wreckage raining down toward the planet below. Council officers screamed in shock. They had never seen such firepower. Human rail cannons fired projectiles faster than light itself. Kinetic strikes shattered shields like glass. Every hit tore ships apart as if they were paper. Inside the chamber, the prisoner's words echoed again and again. Humanity never forgives. Humanity never forgets. The battle raged on, but the council forces were collapsing. Their weapons could barely scratch the human dreadnoughts. Panic spread through the fleets as more and more ships were lost. Some captains tried to retreat. Others simply froze. Then the human fleet did something unexpected. Instead of pressing the attack, they stopped. The lead warship broadcasted again. This time, the voice was colder, sharper. "We are not here to conquer. We are here to take back what was stolen. Release every slave. Surrender every human you have hidden, or we will burn your worlds until nothing remains." The chamber exploded with noise. Councillors accused each other of hiding human prisoners. Entire delegations screamed in fear. The Speaker of the Council pounded his staff, trying to calm the storm, but his voice was drowned out by the chaos. Only the prisoner was calm. His eyes never left the screen. He knew what the councillors did not. This fleet was only the beginning. Outside, one of the human warships moved closer to the planet. The Council world's defense grid locked onto it, preparing to fire. But the ship turned slightly, revealing its side. 1,000 hangar doors opened, and from the darkness poured smaller ships, black-armored strike craft, wings of bombers and carriers releasing drop pods. The council officers stared in horror as the pods streaked toward the planet. The humans were not only here with ships. They had brought soldiers. The prisoner finally spoke again, his voice low but carrying across the chamber. You thought you had broken us, but you only gave us time. Time to build, time to prepare. And now the reckoning begins, the alarm screamed louder. The planetary shield flared as the first human pod slammed into the atmosphere. The skies above the capital turned to fire, and just before the chamber doors sealed, the last transmission from orbit came through. A massive dreadnought, its hull black as night, drifted into full view. It was larger than anything the Council had ever imagined. Its name was carved into the side in bold Terran script, UNS Vengeance. The chamber fell into silence. The humans had returned, and they had brought the Shadow Fleet with them. The skies of the Council world burned. Human drop pods slammed through the atmosphere, leaving blazing trails like falling stars. Every city siren howled. Civilians ran to bunkers. Soldiers scrambled to defensive lines. Inside the chamber, the councillors shouted at one another, their voices breaking with fear. Some demanded the prisoner be executed immediately. Others begged to hand him over in surrender. But it was too late. The humans were already here. The chamber lights shook as the first pods hit the ground. A thunder like endless drums rolled through the city. And then came the sound. Boots striking steel, the rhythmic march of an army that had not been seen in 1,000 years. The guards at the chamber doors stiffened as shadows moved outside. Then the doors burst open. Figures in black armor entered, weapons glowing with red light. Their helmets were featureless, their movements exact, their presence overwhelming. They did not hesitate. They moved like predators through prey. Council guards raised their weapons, but were disarmed in seconds. The armored soldiers moved too quickly, too perfectly. One raised a weapon and fired. Non-lethal blasts stunned the defenders instantly. The prisoner smiled for the first time. They came. The lead soldier stepped forward, saluted the chained human, and with one strike shattered his restraints. The chains fell to the floor with a heavy clang. The prisoner stood tall, rubbing his wrists. His voice was steady. "Where is your commander?" The armored soldier's visor glowed faint blue. His reply echoed through the chamber. "Commander is in orbit. Orders are clear. Free every slave. Liberate every world. No one left behind," the councillors gasped. Not just humans, every species. Every chain broken. Before they could react, a broadcast cut through every screen in the chamber. The human fleet was transmitting live images of other worlds. Across the galaxy, pods were landing on mining colonies, prison camps, and labor worlds. Human marines stormed the complexes, blasting gates apart, cutting down slavers, and shouting one phrase that carried across every feed: "Every slave is free." Alien prisoners, weak and broken, crawled from their cages. They stared in disbelief as armored humans lifted them to their feet. Some wept, some screamed in joy, and some simply collapsed in relief. For the first time in galactic history, liberation had arrived. The galaxy watched as humans freed not just their own kind, but everyone. Whole races that had been forgotten now rose again, carried by the protection of Earth's soldiers. In the council chamber, the effect was chaos. Some delegations cheered, realizing the humans were not conquerors, but liberators. Others shouted warnings that this was only a trick, that the humans would enslave them next. One councillor, an insectoid leader with trembling limbs, hissed out the fear that many felt. If they can do this, if they can free entire systems in hours, what stops them from taking ours? The prisoner turned to face them, his eyes sharp as blades. "You don't understand. We are not here for conquest. We are here for justice. We are here because you allowed it." A silence fell. He pointed toward the live feeds where slaves were being freed across the stars. "You watched. You sat in this chamber and did nothing. But we remember. Humanity remembers everything." The words stung deeper than weapons. Councillors lowered their heads, ashamed, but also terrified. Then another voice entered the chamber. It was not human. It came from the alien soldier who had been freed just moments earlier, a reptilian warrior with scars across his chest. His voice trembled with rage. "You don't understand," he said, stepping forward. "The ones you fight now, the Enslavers, they are not the true masters. They are only servants. The real masters will come for you." The chamber froze. Every eye turned toward him. "What do you mean?" the council speaker demanded. The alien's voice was almost a whisper. "The ones who built the chains. The ones who forged the slave fleets. The Enslavers. They are older than your council. Older than humanity. And when they learn what you have done, they will not come with ships. They will come with stars as weapons." The councillors erupted in panic. Some cried out that it was lies, others shouted for details, but the prisoner only nodded grimly. He had heard this warning before. "They will come," he said. "And when they do, you will pray humanity is still standing beside you." Outside, thunder shook the skies again. The humans had secured the capital, but above the planet, long-range sensors screamed alarms. New contacts were entering the system, massive, overwhelming signatures. The Enslavers had heard, and they were already on their way. The council world was still burning from the human assault when the alarms changed. The first waves of human soldiers were still freeing prisoners, but now every sensor in orbit screamed warnings. Something else had arrived. In the void beyond the system, the darkness shifted. Shadows stretched across stars. The human fleet adjusted immediately, dreadnoughts moving into precise formations, their guns heating like the hearts of suns. And then the Enslavers appeared. Their ships did not glide like the human vessels. They tore into real space, ripping holes in the void itself. Each vessel was a city of jagged metal, bristling with spires and chains that drifted endlessly into the black. They dwarfed even the UNS Vengeance. The first appeared, then another, then a dozen, then an entire wall of them. The system shook as thousands of kilometers of alien warships descended, each one radiating power older than recorded history. In the council chamber, silence fell as the scale of the fleet became clear. Delegates who had mocked the human prisoner earlier now stared in terror. The old stories, the forbidden whispers, they were true. The freed reptilian warrior stepped forward, his scales trembling. "These are the masters I spoke of, the true Enslavers. You cannot bargain with them. You cannot reason with them. They exist only to dominate." The prisoner clenched his fists. "And humanity exists to resist." Above the planet, the first transmission came from the Enslaver fleet. It was not a voice. It was a pressure, a crushing presence that forced every lesser mind in the system to kneel. Alien officers collapsed, screaming. Civilians clutched their heads in agony. Even councillors staggered in their seats, but the humans stood. Their soldiers resisted the pressure, their helmets sparking with neural defenses. On the bridges of their dreadnoughts, human captains gritted their teeth but refused to bow. The presence became words. Deep, echoing, layered across countless frequencies. "Return the human, or your star will burn." The prisoner raised his head. "Too late. We are already here." The Enslavers did not wait. Their ships opened fire. Beams of energy brighter than suns lanced across space, tearing through orbit. A single strike vaporized a council battleship. Another ripped apart a moon. The shockwave rolled across the system, sending asteroids tumbling. The human fleet answered at once. Rail cannons roared. Torpedo swarms streaked through the void. Human dreadnoughts shifted into wall formations, every ship overlapping shields, every gun firing in brutal precision. The battle began. The Enslavers outnumbered them 10-1, but the humans fought like predators unleashed. Their kinetic weapons struck with impossible force, tearing holes in armor thousands of years old. Where Enslaver beams cut ships apart, human squadrons filled the gaps instantly. Never breaking formation, the Council watched in horror as the two greatest fleets in galactic history clashed above their world. Every blast lit the sky, every explosion shook the cities below. Inside the chamber, panic spread. Some councillors begged to flee the planet. Others demanded to surrender the prisoner. But the human commander's broadcast filled every screen again. "We will not surrender. We will not bow. If you want freedom, stand with us. If not, then get out of our way." The freed alien soldier roared, lifting his weapon. I will fight with you." His voice inspired others. Across the chamber, species who had been slaves for generations shouted their agreement. Hope spread like wildfire, but hope turned to dread as new readings came through. One of the enslaver ships moved into position. Its hull split open, revealing something vast inside. Not a gun, not a missile. Something worse, a device unfolded, glowing with unstable energy. Sensors confirmed it immediately. The enslavers had brought a weapon designed not to destroy ships or planets, but entire stars. In orbit, human admirals realized the truth. If the device fired, the Council world's sun would collapse. The system itself would die. The prisoner clenched his jaw. His voice was steady, but his words froze every counselor in place. They will burn stars to ash. They always have. They will again, unless we stop them. Above, the device began to charge. The sun's surface rippled, flaring unnaturally. Solar winds screamed across space. The chamber shook as another blast from the enslavers ripped through the defenses. Human dreadnoughts held the line, but the energy readings climbed higher and higher. The humans had fought hard to liberate the slaves. But now they faced something far greater. The enslavers were preparing to kill a star. The Council world's skies were fire. The battle above raged so fiercely that night and day no longer mattered. Explosions lit the heavens, and every shadow on the ground was cast by burning ships. But even as the human fleet held the line, something worse began. At the edge of the system, the enslaver's superweapon glowed like a newborn sun. Chains of energy wrapped around it, binding its unstable power. Sensors screamed as its charge spiked higher and higher, and then the star itself cried out. The Council world's sun flickered unnaturally. Its surface rippled, flaring with violent arcs. Entire solar winds screamed outward, smashing into ships. On the ground, people stared upward in horror as daylight shifted red, then white, then black. Inside the chamber, the prisoner shouted above the alarms. "And they are draining the star! If they finish, everything here dies." The councillors panicked. Some fled the chamber. Others screamed at human soldiers to protect them. But the humans were already moving. Above, the UNS Vengeance repositioned, its vast bulk blocking a barrage of enslaver fire. Its railguns boomed like thunder, punching through the hull of one jagged enslaver vessel. The wreckage drifted, torn in half, but more ships took its place. The voice of Earth's admiral came across every channel. "Calm, but sharp as steel. This is Admiral Reyes of the United Nations Fleet. Hold the line. Protect the civilians." "No star dies today," the humans struck back. Squadrons of bombers dived toward the weapon, weaving through storms of enemy fire. Drop pods smashed into enslaver hulls, unloading Marines in brutal boarding actions. For every human lost, 10 more pressed forward. But the weapon kept charging. The star pulsed again, its surface darkening in massive swaths. Entire regions of plasma collapsed inward, devoured by the device, and then it fired. A beam of raw stellar energy erupted from the weapon, a blinding lance brighter than anything the galaxy had ever seen. It struck a nearby planet, tearing it apart in a heartbeat. Mountains, oceans, cities, all gone, vaporized in a single flash. The planet cracked and then shattered, its fragments drifting into nothing. The entire council chamber shook from the shockwave. Delegates screamed in terror. The prisoner clenched his fists, his eyes locked on the sky. "Now you see," he said. "This is what they are. This is what they've always been." The humans did not retreat. Instead, their dreadnoughts shifted formation, placing themselves between the weapon and the council world. Railguns and missile storms hammered the device, but its shields flared, refusing to break. The council generals shouted for retreat. "You cannot hold against that. You must flee." But Admiral Reyes's voice cut across the channel again. "Earth does not flee." The humans began their counterattack. The Vengeance and her escorts launched a full salvo. Hypersonic rounds tore through an enslaver cruiser, ripping it apart in a silent, fiery death. A squadron of human bombers reached the weapon's shield generators, detonating warheads so powerful that the entire structure trembled. Still, the weapon pulsed. The readings climbed. It was preparing to fire again, this time at the sun itself. If the star was destroyed, the system would collapse. Billions would die in an instant. In the chamber, the reptilian freed warrior turned to the prisoner. His voice was filled with fear. Even your people cannot stop this. If they burn stars, what hope is left? The prisoner's reply was cold, unwavering. Hope is all we have. And hope is enough. Outside, the human fleet braced. A second charge built within the weapon, the energy lashing across the void. Shields strained, dreadnoughts groaned, smaller ships burned. But the humans refused to break. Then came the moment of horror. Sensors screamed as the Enslaver device locked directly onto the Council world's sun. The star darkened again, collapsing inward. The energy field grew unstable, glowing brighter, hungrier. Across the system, ships staggered as the gravity waves tore through space. The Enslavers had decided. They would kill the star and everything around it. Alarms blared across every fleet channel. The countdown began. The humans had only minutes left to stop the weapon, or the Council world and their own fleet would vanish in fire. The Council world shook as the Enslavers' star-killer weapon charged again. The sun itself screamed with flares, its light shifting and bending unnaturally. Human dreadnoughts poured fire into the device, but the energy shield held strong. Time was running out. Then came the warning every soldier feared. Enemy fleet moving. New jump signatures detected. They are heading for Sol. They are heading for Earth. The words froze every channel. For centuries, Earth had been a myth whispered in the shadows of alien empires. Some said it was burned. Some said it was poisoned. Some said it was gone forever. But the truth was far more dangerous. Earth still lived, and now it was the Enslavers' next target. In the chamber, the councillors erupted in panic. If the humans lost their homeworld, the war would end before it began. But the prisoner stood calm, his eyes locked on the display of the incoming fleet. They think Earth is weak, he said. They think Earth is undefended. Let them come. They have no idea what waits for them. Across the void, the Enslaver armada tore through space, phasing into the Sol system. At first, their victory seemed certain. Their ships darkened the orbits of Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Their superweapon began to reassemble, preparing to drain another sun. But then the void itself changed. The blackness shimmered. Entire regions of space peeled away like a curtain. One by one, titanic human warships decloaked, their hulls gleaming in the light of Sol. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. The armada that appeared dwarfed everything seen before. The UNS home fleet, every world of the Sol system, had become a fortress. Orbital cannons surrounded Earth, each one the size of a mountain. The moon was lined with missile silos. Mars bristled with gun batteries. Even the skies of Jupiter shimmered as hidden weapons arrays came alive, powered by the storms of the gas giant itself. Earth had not died. Earth had prepared. The Enslavers paused for the first time. Their formation faltered as they realized their mistake. They had expected ruins. Instead, they had found the single most fortified system in the galaxy. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Admiral Reyes gave the order. Show them the truth. Fire the Aegis array. High above Earth, a colossal structure activated. It was larger than any battleship, spanning thousands of kilometers, a ring of steel and fire orbiting the planet. Energy built along its length, glowing brighter and brighter until it rivaled the sun itself. Then it fired. A beam of pure light cut across the system, slicing through the Enslaver fleet. Entire warships disintegrated in seconds, their jagged hulls torn apart. The shock wave scattered the armada, forcing even their largest dreadnoughts to retreat. The galaxy watched in silence as the broadcast spread. Earth, the world thought lost, had revealed itself as the most powerful fortress in known space. In the council chamber, alien faces twisted in disbelief. 1,000 years of propaganda had said humans were gone forever. Now the truth burned across every screen. They never vanished, whispered one counselor. They were hiding. They were building. The prisoner's voice was hard as iron. We weren't hiding. We were waiting. The Enslavers were not finished. From their remaining ships, they unleashed swarms of biomechanical weapons, creatures made of steel and flesh that fed on energy. The skies above Seoul filled with them, writhing like a living storm. Human fleets met them head-on. Fighters and drones surged forward, intercepting wave after wave. Railguns split the swarms apart. Missiles detonated in walls of fire. But still they came, endless, hungering for destruction, and then the readings changed again. Deep beyond the rim of the system, something stirred, a signal stronger than any before, older, colder. The Enslavers were not only attacking with fleets, they were calling something else, something ancient. Inside the chamber, the freed reptilian warrior felt his blood run cold. His voice cracked as he spoke. They are summoning it. The god weapon. The one that feeds on stars. The prisoner's expression hardened. He had heard legends of it, a weapon older than every empire, a living construct that could devour entire systems. Admiral Reyes's voice cut through once more, steady but grim. All ships, prepare. Earth will not fall, not today, not ever. But as the system trembled and the stars themselves seemed to dim, every soldier, every counselor, every freed slave understood the truth. The real war had only just begun. The stars themselves trembled. Beyond the rim of the Sol system, the void twisted unnaturally. At first it looked like a shadow, a wound in space itself. Then the shadow moved, and the size of it became clear. The god weapon had awakened. It was no ship. It was a living construct, older than empires, larger than moons. Its body was a lattice of black steel and glowing veins of molten fire. Its maw opened like a collapsing star, pulling in light and spitting out darkness. Wherever it turned, the fabric of space rippled as if the universe itself feared its hunger. Every ship in the Sol system received the same warning. Energy spike detected. It is feeding on the sun. On Earth, cities darkened as the sky flickered unnaturally. The sun dimmed for seconds at a time, its light stolen by the creature's hunger. Billions looked up in terror as if judgment itself had arrived. In the council chamber, silence fell. Even the most arrogant counselors could not speak. The prisoner's face hardened as he whispered, "That is the Enslavers' ace. The god weapon eats stars until nothing remains." The reptilian warrior hissed in despair. "No fleet can kill that. No army can fight it." But the human admiral's voice came across the channels, firm as steel. "Then we will not fight it alone." Across the galaxy, broadcasts had spread. The council's lies were broken. All species now saw the truth. Earth had returned, and humanity was standing against a terror no one else could face. The response was immediate. Signals poured in. Fleets burned their hyperlanes to Seoul, small ships. Great warships. Agte bands of resistance. Entire worlds that had once knelt to the Enslavers now rose in defiance. For the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy did not cower. It rallied, and yet the god weapon advanced. Its maw opened wider, pulling entire swarms of human drones into its gravity well. With each kill, it grew stronger. The home fleet launched a counterstrike. Missiles the size of towers detonated against its surface, carving molten scars across its black body. Railgun slugs, fired at a fraction of light speed, hammered its shell. Squadrons of bombers dove into its storm, sacrificing themselves to plant nuclear charges deep inside. The explosions shook the void, but the monster endured. Slowly, its maw turned toward the sun again. Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge of the Vengeance. His face was stone, his voice calm. "If we lose Seoul, we lose everything. Bring the Aegis array online again." The colossal orbital cannon around Earth lit up, gathering energy until the planet itself glowed like a star. The beam fired, a blinding torrent of light that cut through space and smashed into the creature's body. For the first time, it screamed. The sound was not heard through ears, but through the bones of every living being. It was the cry of a predator wounded, ancient and furious. The god weapon turned, and its next beam was not at the sun, it was at Earth. The beam lashed across the system. Human shields flared. Dreadnoughts threw themselves into its path. Entire fleets sacrificed themselves, burning to nothing in order to protect the planet below. The chamber shook violently. The councillors screamed that Earth would fall, that humanity's defiance had doomed them all. But the prisoner stood tall, eyes locked on the hologram of the battle. His voice cut through the panic. No, they will not fall. Humanity does not kneel, not to tyrants, not to gods. Above the galaxy's fleets began to arrive. First a dozen alien warships, then hundreds, then thousands. Every species that had suffered under the Enslavers joined the fight. The skies of Sol became a storm of fire and steel. Side by side, humanity and the galaxy fought as one. Still, the god weapon pressed forward. Its maw widened again, preparing a final strike strong enough to shatter the sun. Inside the Vengeance, Admiral Reyes clenched his fist. His order rang across every channel, across every fleet, across every world, watching the broadcast. This is it. All ships, all weapons, target that thing. This is our last dawn. Fire everything. The system erupted in fire. Railguns, missiles, beams, plasma, every weapon from every ship unleashed at once. The darkness of the void became brighter than day as the combined fury of the galaxy hammered the god weapon. The creature staggered, its body fracturing, molten rivers pouring from its wounds. But still it lived, still it fed, and then in its final act of fury, it turned fully toward the sun. Its maw expanded to impossible size, a singularity of hunger. The light of Sol flickered. The star itself began to collapse. The universe seemed to hold its breath. The sun was dying. The god weapon's maw widened, dragging the light of Sol into its endless hunger. Every ship's sensors screamed the same warning: collapse imminent. If the star fell, the Sol system and every fleet within it would burn. On Earth, billions watched the sky dim. Across the council chamber, silence fell. No voice dared speak, except the prisoners. This is the choice. If we fail here, there will be no tomorrow. Above, Admiral Reyes stood firm on the bridge of the Vengeance. His voice rang out across every channel, to every fleet, every soldier, every frightened soul. This is not just Earth's fight. This is not just humanity's fight. This is for everyone who has ever lived in chains. Today we end the Enslavers. Today we fight for all humanity. The order came: all ships attack. The skies of Sol became a storm. Thousands of warships unleashed their fury in one last desperate strike. Alien cruisers fought beside human frigates. Planetary cannons fired from Mars and the Moon. The Aegis array roared again, its beam carving through the void like the sword of a god. The god weapon staggered. Its armor cracked, molten rivers spilling from its wounds. But it endured, feeding still on the star. Its scream shook the system, a roar of endless hunger. The fleets poured fire into it, but the monster was too vast. Piece by piece, dreadnoughts burned. Alien allies were torn apart by the creature's gravity storm. Hope itself seemed to crack, and then in the darkest moment the prisoner spoke. His voice was calm, heavy with the weight of knowledge. There is one way: a core strike. A ship must carry its engines into the creature's heart and ignite them. It will tear it apart from the inside. But it will not be a return mission. Silence fell across the fleet. A suicide run. Before anyone else could speak, Admiral Reyes answered. His words were steady. We don't ask for volunteers. We are humanity. We lead by example. The Vengeance broke formation. Alone, the massive dreadnought turned toward the creature. Its engines burned brighter, pushing harder than ever before. The fleets watched as their flagship charged straight into the abyss. The prisoner's fists clenched. No, the reptilian warrior hissed, tears burning his scaled face. They will not survive. But Admiral Reyes's final broadcast cut across every channel, echoing across the galaxy. Remember this: we were human, we were free, and so shall you be. For all humanity. The Vengeance plunged into the creature's maw. Inside, alarms screamed. Fire tore across the decks. Crewmen braced as molten tendrils wrapped around the hull. But still, the engines roared. They carried the ship deeper, closer to the beast's core. On Earth, In alien worlds across every screen, billions watched as the Vengeance vanished into the darkness. And then, light, the ship's engines detonated. Not a simple explosion, but a chain reaction of antimatter fuel, reactor cores, and weapons stockpiles. The detonation ripped outward like a new star being born. The god weapon screamed one last time. Its body fractured. Its molten veins burst. Its core imploded, then tore apart in a cataclysm that shook the system. The light of Sol returned, brighter than ever. The sun lived. Debris scattered across space. Fragments of the god weapon drifted lifeless, broken at last. Cheers erupted across the fleets, across Earth, across every alien world watching. In the council chamber, silence turned to awe. The councillors looked at one another, then at the prisoner, whose eyes were wet with tears. "They did it," he whispered. "They saved us all." But victory carried weight. The Vengeance was gone. Admiral Reyes and his crew had given their lives. Their sacrifice had ended the Enslavers' reign. In the aftermath, the galaxy changed. Fleets once divided now swore alliance. The Enslavers' grip shattered. Their armies routed across every frontier. Worlds long enslaved rose in freedom, chanting a name once forbidden, humanity, and on Earth a monument was built. A single tower reaching into the sky, carved with words that echoed across every species, for all humanity. The prisoner stood there 1 year later, a free man among billions freed. The reptilian warrior at his side looked at the monument, then at the sky where stars now burned brighter than ever. "They said your people vanished," he murmured. "But you returned." The prisoner's reply was quiet but unshakable. "We never left. We were waiting, and we will never be silent again." The camera of history pulled back, showing Earth alive, the fleets united, the stars free once more. The age of fear had ended. The age of humanity had begun.